Hello there, Internet. It's Ginger here again with another episode of Fighting the Void. Thanks for tuning in. As some of you might know, it is the day after the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, but that's not what we're talking about today. But it is the reason I'm wearing my American flag shirt, and I have my handy-dandy Apollo 50th anniversary cup that I got from the Space and Rocket Center a few weeks ago. It was awesome. But also, Crystal is here with us again. From the bright sunny state that she lives in. I'm not telling you, so there. And also returning to the show is the one and only princess of the multiverse, who is like moon landing. I hop universes before breakfast. Faith Moore.
Hi. Yeah, totally. I used to be a cartoon, and now I'm here in live action to talk to you. So I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you.
If you are interested in what Faith looks like in her natural cartoon state, you can actually go to her Twitter at Faith K Moore, and her profile pic is actually her original cartoon state. It turns out that Laurel at Strangeland Elf was able to uncover this form and put it in a profile pic format so that the rest of us could enjoy and learn the true nature of the Princess of the Multiverse.
And she's such a multiverse princess that somehow we managed to wear both pink without planning this at all.
We're so coordinated right now.
Oh, and you guys were coordinated for the Henry VIII episode.
We totally were. We're always coordinated.
Yeah. And I was like, how about that? It's like, I don't know.
We didn't plan it.
You have this, I'm sorry, women have this weird telepathic wavelength thing that you do, and it's a superpower. I don't understand it, but it works out nicely.
It's a little secret. We're not going to tell you.
I don't expect to be told. You haven't shared this secret for millions of years. I don't expect to be the one to find it out.
No, I can't tell you.
Well, to be fair, at the beginning of time, we pretty much had no option but to wear the same thing for the same animal skin and whatnot.
This is true. The thank goodness we discovered how to use berries to dye things.
It would be a totally different show if we didn't have clothes.
It would be awkward. Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on. Yes, that would be a very. Anyway. So, wow, that went off the rails fast.
You're welcome.
We're gonna blame the heat wave. We're gonna blame Trump's heat wave because that's the thing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
What are we talking about right now?
The real thing that we're supposed to be talking about, Faith, is we're going to be talking about what the crap is going on with all of Disney's live action remakes. They seem to be coming at a faster pace than what they were. It seemed to be one every couple of years. And initially, they seemed to just kind of show up and without a whole lot of fanfare. Especially, I'm thinking of the Cinderella one.
Right.
That seemed to just be oh, hey, here's a Cinderella live action remake, which I watched and it was all right. Glenn Close is she was the evil stepmother, if I remember correctly. Was she?
Glenn Close, was she really? I don't know.
Maybe I'm confusing it with 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah, she was definitely Cruella de Vil.
Yeah, she was, and a fantastic Cruella de Vil at that.
Yeah,
maybe it was. Oh gosh, now I'm mad because I can't think of who the wicked stepmother was, and whoever it was, she was really good at it.
I'm looking it up. Don't worry.
Kate Blanchett. That's who.
Okay, that's right.
That's who it was. And she did a fantastic job of being an evil, wicked stepmother. She was very, very wicked, very evil. Anyway. You didn't get much of Lucifer the Cat, though.
No. I mean, my issue with that live action, I think that was sort of the first live action remake that kind of we were aware of. I think, some people count some other movies that came out, decades ago as kind of live action remakes, but that's kind of the first one in this canon that is now, as you say, just exploding with all the different movies. But that one to me was sort of okay, I didn't really add anything. I felt like, to the story. I know some people feel like, yes, it had all this stuff backstory about her mom, and there was this one scene where the prince met her before the ball and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But really, I felt like that movie was just kind of like, it's amazing to see all these characters that we love come to life as real people. And it was kind of like the first time that they had tried to do that, to turn all these sort of beloved cartoons into a real movie. But for me, I feel like a live action movie has to add something more, because a cartoon has this kind of power to just be sort of almost like a kind of shorthand, like it's a cartoon, so they're not going to have like really deep, intense emotions, or like really elaborate backstories or motivations. Whereas when you're dealing with real people in the real world, like you kind of need them to be a little bit more fleshed out. And I think that's sort of the point of a live action movie, is to kind of go deeper into these characters and into the story. And I just didn't feel like that Cinderella movie did that.
No, I would agree. That's kind of why it comes off as meh.
Right.
And
exactly.
Helena Bonham Carter,
she's just weird in general.
She's just weird in general, and that was a very weird addition for the fairy godmother. I was just like, wait, what?
She's not the fairy godmother. She's like the Wicked Witch. I feel like she's not like the
fairy. I know. She's just so like inherently strange at this point.
Exactly.
She's essentially the female version of Johnny Depp.
Yes. Yeah. Which is why they're all in like
Tim Burton movies
together, right? So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's just again the beginning of the live action remakes, and we've had I don't even remember all the ones we've had. I know we've had Maleficent. I think that was the first one that like I was like, okay, this is something we're going to talk about, and it's a big deal, because it wasn't just that it was a live action remake. It was also riding this little mini wave started by the Wicked book of, we're going to retell the story from the villain's perspective.
Right, these villains. And I don't even necessarily count Maleficent as a remake, because I guess it takes
because of that
during the timeline of Sleeping Beauty, but it isn't the Sleeping Beauty movie made into a live action movie. It's like a different narrative. So it's kind of like, it kind of is in there. I mean, they usually put it there in the list of all the live action movies. And I saw recently a list of like what's coming, and I think like Maleficent 2 is coming, and that's counted. But like, yeah, that's a sort of different one. I hated that movie, but it's a sort of different.
Yeah, it is an entirely different movie. Not just because it's told from the villain's perspective, but yeah, right. It subverts the narrative significantly in numerous ways.
It does. I mean, right, like when you're making a story within the universe of another story, you can't really say that all of the stuff that happened in the original movie didn't happen. Which is kind of what Maleficent does in a lot of ways. It's kind of like it turns her into this good character, which kind of negates everything that happens to Aurora in the original movie. So it's kind of like you can't really say these are on the same plane if you're telling a totally different story. So I just really did not approve of that one.
No, and we also had Snow White and the Huntsman.
Right.
Which I haven't seen that actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if I count that either, because I don't think that's like a direct live action remake. That's just it's just someone, they took the story and put their own spin on in live action, because it focuses on the Huntsman more than it does Snow White.
Yeah.
And
it's more of a reimagining.
Right. There's this sort of like subgenre of like reimaginings, right? Because like, Snow White and the Huntsman is like that, and Maleficent is like that. And just, these stories where you either take somebody that was a villain and try to make them more sort of understandable, or you kind of just take a different character like the Huntsman or whoever and try to sort of make the story about that person. So it's like slightly different.
Now, have we had anything? I know we have. I'm having a hard time remembering, but we have had between Snow White and Aladdin.
Okay, Beauty and the Beast we've had.
Beauty and the Beast, that's
and then we have to discuss whether we count as live action like Jungle Book. And then we've got The Lion King, right? Which I think are like it's like photorealism, right? It's not actually live action because they didn't find a bunch of lions that can sing. So but there was the Jungle Book, we've had Beauty and the Beast.
Dumbo.
Dumbo, which just came and went, right? Like that's just complete. That was like a complete flop.
Oh,
Yeah, in fact,
that one doesn't sit well with me.
on that note, Faith, you mentioning it's a complete flop. Apparently, six of the 10 Disney live action remakes are actually certified rotten on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ah, yes.
It's like it makes you wonder, why keep doing it?
Yeah, well, I think I have an answer to this question. Why are they doing this? And I think, but this is just the Faith Moore certified answer. I have no evidence to prove this. I think so. One thing that's happening with these remakes is that that Disney seems to be not just sort of making these movies again live action, but also sort of trying to answer or like deal with certain like fan problems with the movies, like things that are kind of problematic, quote unquote. Yeah. For example, that whatever, that Belle is trapped and maybe a victim of Stockholm syndrome, right? So they have to make her try to escape in that movie, or like Mulan. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about Mulan, but like, Mulan is, she really just wants to do what her parents say and be a good wife, but she can't. And then in the trailer, it looks like actually what she wants to do is be a warrior, because women aren't strong and powerful unless they want to be warriors. So they're sort of trying to correct all of these things. So they're paying lip service to the kind of like wave of feminism that has happened between when all these movies came out in the late 80s and 90s and now. But I also think one of the reasons that they're not making new content is that it's impossible to make new content with all of these sort of woke rules. It's hard to come up with new stories, especially these kind of like irreverent fairy tale type stories that have a lot of these things in them that feminists don't understand, like a lot of these kind of symbols that feminists don't get. And so it's hard to kind of make new Disney movies based on fairy tales when you have this like problem of you have to be woke. And the thing is that people of our generation love, well, I guess we're all different generations, people who grew up when these movies came out, right? Like love these movies so much that they're willing to overlook the things in them that are not woke. So you can make, you can make Aladdin and say, adjust your veil and prepare, like adjust your, or like, prepare your Sunday salam or whatever. You can say all of this stuff that would be totally not okay now because we love these movies so much. So I think they're walking this fine line of like, we're going to try to correct all the things that people have complained about, but we're going to keep in all of the stuff that people love, and people will come and flock to these movies because they love them so much. And I think that it solves a problem of having to make new content that can't possibly adhere to all of the woke rules.
Yeah. And I think that's an excellent point as to why they're not making new. I also think, as you're talking, it occurred to me, also, since you're not making new, all you're doing is you're editing essentially, and it's easy to edit a pre-existing material into woke rules because you've got what everyone's critiques are already right out in front of you. So you've got a template for how to go about fixing it right off the bat. And so I think it's a little easier, and they may even be looking at it as test run of, do we want to try to make anything new with the woke rules and everything? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's super easy. I mean, they know they're going to make money because they know
they're going to make money.
Huge contingent of adults who now have children who want to share these stories with their kids because they love them so much, and that they're going to just go to the movies and it doesn't matter. I mean, like my feeling was, like, I really wanted the Beauty and the Beast movie to be good, but I would have gone to see that movie even if I had been told that it was like the worst movie ever, because I just love that story so much, and I just would have gone. And I feel like there's a lot of people who feel that way, and so Disney knows that they're going to make money off of these movies. Even if they're like, certified rotten, people are going to show up for opening weekend to find out that they're rotten.
Right. Yeah, I'm not taking someone else's word for it. I'm going to go find out and make sure that thing sucks.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, but so I think you're definitely onto something with why they're just continually remaking everything, because they're afraid to make something new. Whether they truly are out of ideas or not, which is legitimately open for discussion, the fact is they're probably afraid to use a lot of new ideas. I mean, just look at with studios that they own. Well, not really. The only studio that they own that's having significant issues is Lucasfilm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the Star Wars franchise and just how that's just turned into something that is a source of division. Oh, well, let's just put it that way. We don't need to go down that. We don't need to go down that particular wormhole right now. We'll stay focused on the Disney proper for today. We've had a few other of the live action remakes. We had Aladdin, which, as I understand, was actually a pretty decent movie, and it did pretty well.
Right.
Which is good. I'm actually happy for Will Smith about that, because the boys needed a solid hit for a while.
Yeah. I mean, that was hard because, everybody, including me, I mean, we loved Robin Williams, and also he's dead. So it's like, it's kind of hard to step into that role. And, like how iconic that was. And I think I kept saying, like, the only way for Will Smith to do this is to just make it totally different, like to be Will Smith in this role and not at all try to be be like Robin Williams. And I think, for the most part, I think he accomplished that. I mean, I don't know. I wish he had gone even further, like away from the Robin Williams version of the genie. But I think, I think he was definitely playing a different version of the genie, which I think is the only way to do it. Because that was such an iconic role.
I think you're right. There's no way you're gonna there's no way you're gonna sell it doing a Robin Williams impression. It's just impossible.
Right.
Just go be Will Smith. Will Smith has his own shtick. He has his own natural charm and everything to him that's different than Robin Williams, but also very compelling on film.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, I love Will Smith. Not as much as
Go ahead, Crystal.
Let's be honest. Will Smith's one of those actors where when you hire them, you're basically hiring them for themselves. Like it's the same with Nicolas Cage. When you hire Nicolas Cage, you're hiring Nicolas Cage to be Nicolas Cage. Will Smith's kind of the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
I think the comparison is interesting, but oddly accurate. I mean, Will Smith, Nicolas Cage. Don't get me wrong. Actually, I'm an old fan of Nick Cage. Actually, I think I think the crap that he gets is a little blown up. I think it's a little exaggerated thanks to the internet. But then again, in all fairness, Nick Cage is a little exaggerated, and the internet just helps that.
It's true.
But now, and this gets us.
That's a whole nother video.
Yes, it is. Yes, we should do one just on the mystery, the enigma that is Nicolas Cage. And anyway, this kind of brings us right up to the present day, where all of a sudden we went from every now and then there's a live action remake to holy crap, they're like coming out every other month now. I mean, we just had Aladdin, we just had Dumbo. We've got trailers now for Maleficent 2. We've got a trailer for Mulan. We've got casting for Little Mermaid underway. It's like, oh my gosh, guys, what? Like, seriously? Get a little breathing room here, people. I mean, for your own sake. Us people out here, we only got so much money to spend to go to the theaters. And y'all are figuring that out, incidentally, because a lot of your box offices aren't returning what you want them to. And it's because we just went to go see Endgame 6 times. And we're not going to go and spend money to go go watch Dumbo, which we're not sure about anyway.
Yeah, but I think that that actually we are going to spend our money on them. And I think that's why they're doing it. Like, I think Dumbo, I think the reason that Dumbo tanked is because Dumbo actually can't be wokeified. Like the whole thing about Dumbo is like, I mean, that movie is so weird. Like the cartoon is so weird. And, there's the whole scene where they get drunk and there's pink elephants. And then there's the whole thing with like the Jim Crows, like the crows, and it's all sort of like racially tinged and there's all of this stuff. And I just think like the whole woke world just could not deal with Dumbo. And so I think that it just tanked. But like The Little Mermaid, it doesn't matter if they cast like a shoe. Like it's gonna make money because like this movie, I mean, like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, those are the three like hit amazing like Disney Renaissance movies. And so people are gonna just show up. I mean, maybe after opening weekend and maybe if it's terrible, then people will stop going. But like that first, they're gonna make bank. And I think that's kind of why they're doing this. It's sort of this easy way, to make money. And that's what they're in the business of doing, is making money, and that's fine. But it's like, I really think that it's easy for them to sort of say, and as you said, like they already have the script, they already have the story, they already have all of the kind of iconic things about all of these different plots. And, and when they make changes, it's kind of, people are like, ooh, and it makes a big buzz. And even if it's negative, like they get press. And I think it's just a really easy way for Disney to kind of make movies without having to do a whole bunch of like legwork on the sort of creative end. Right. Yep. So I think that's why we're seeing this, like Cinderella did fairly well. I mean, Beauty and the Beast was like a huge success. Like, they're just thinking like, all right, we'll just keep doing this until people stop coming. And I don't think people are going to stop coming, honestly, until they run out of these movies that we love so much, Yeah,
honestly, I think you're right. I think it's going to be, who knows? I mean, when they will stop exactly, because I'm sure they can always, Disney's got a deep well to go to, especially since a lot of people think of like Disney and Pixar as the same thing. They could just follow in the same vein and remake some of those movies. Obviously, not all of them. You can't do I guess you could try to do a live action Toy Story, but it would be about as creepy as cats. So don't do that.
Yeah. Okay, Disney.
Don't do that. Don't try to do a live action thing of Cars. That's just not going to work. It'd be like we're going to have a bunch of Night Riders talking to each other. It's just going to be weird.
That's so strange.
You're going to be your ass off, okay? Just don't do it. I'm sorry.
I mean, they did do a live action Lion King, though. If they really wanted to, they'd find a way. Yes, the live action. And also I guess they could go and do actual live action versions of the Marvel movies,
which are already live action.
Unless you think of the fact that there's almost as much CGI in those as there is in the Lion King remake.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Lion King remake, I don't understand. Like the whole point is it's a cartoon because lions and other animals don't actually talk and sing, so we can make a cartoon and it looks more believable because we can sort of draw them in more kind of like humanistic ways. But now we have like also not lions, but like computer animated lions that are
they look a lot like lions.
But they're talking and singing songs, and it's just like that. I'm sorry, like that's too much for me. Like I haven't seen it yet. I will see it, but like that's just a little bit far for me. I'm kind of like, there was a reason that movie was a cartoon.
Yeah, and that one hasn't apparently been doing as well, or it's not getting as good of reviews.
Because it's so weird.
Yeah.
It looks so weird.
Yeah, I think I'm sure that's why. I'm sure it's not because everybody's seeing it like that one Washington Post dude thing says like it's white supremacy.
Well, it's so funny. Yeah, I saw that. It's so funny that's what it's about, because I mean, there's all kinds of like Nazi imagery in the original cartoon, but it's affiliated with the bad guy, Scar, right? So I mean, it's all about like that's bad. And so to sort of say, I mean, the whole point of that article seems to be like, because the lions eat the other animals, it's not really like and then the animals come and revere the lion. It's like the writer of that article had never heard the phrase "king of the jungle." Like that whole idea. I mean, the movie was originally called King of the Jungle, I think. And this whole idea just comes from the fact that like the lion is the king of all the beasts. That's why it's the Lion King. That's it. We don't need to read anything more. I mean, I'm the queen of like reading into these things, but like we do not need to read any further into that. It's just that the lion is like the king of the jungle. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure their audiences aren't not showing up or reviews are bad because they're seeing that. I'm sure it's because, like you said, it just probably comes off as strange.
And I think it also doesn't, my understanding is that it doesn't really add anything, that it's basically just sort of beat for beat the same movie as the cartoon. And, like I was saying before, I really think if you're going to bring these cartoons into a more realistic world, you have to deepen them in some way, because the real world is deeper than a cartoon world. And so I think, if the whole point is just like, ooh, look, there's where they're walking across the log and the moon, like, and ooh, look, there's, the scene where the, baby Simba is being held up. It's like, I don't need to see that, like, in a different way. I can watch the original movie. It's like, if you're not going to add anything, then I don't get what the point is.
Right. Now, I was thinking about this whole thing with the CGI talking animals and everything. And I thought of one other example where you had photorealistic CGI animals talking and it worked just fine. And it's the Narnia movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just thinking about it, it's like, okay, so why? What's the difference? The difference, from what I can tell, is the movie doesn't center around them.
And I think there were people in the movie. It was mostly about people, and you needed to have a talking lion and a talking beaver, and you needed to have these characters because they're part of the plot. But so like you have to make them out of CGI, right? But it was mostly, I agree, it was mostly a movie with people in it. So it wasn't.
You're not carrying the movie.
Exactly.
Plus from what I remember seeing from the Narnia movies, they made them look realistic, but they didn't go hyper realistic like the Lion King does. Like when you look at like the posters for the Lion King remake and like the trailer and whatnot, they like put in so much detail, like, oh look, you can see every single hair strand on them, and it's like that's not how the real life works. You can see they have all these hair strands, but you can't see each individual one. And I think that's where it gets especially weird too, because like they make it so hyper realistic and so detailed, where it's like, oh, I can see all the pores on Timon, or stuff like that.
Yeah. I thought that was actually really funny when they brought out the posters, because it was like Simba, it was like a lion, like Mufasa, another lion, like Nala, also a lion. Like they just all look like a lion. Like you couldn't tell them apart because you can't tell lions apart. Like the only one that looked different was Scar, because he was a different color and he had some scars, and I just thought, like, what is this? How are we going to tell everybody apart?
Is this the Lion King, or is this like a National Geographic special? What am I watching?
I was in the subway the other day, and I was walking down the platform, and I saw an ad, and I was like, oh, there's an ad for the Lion King. No, it was an ad for like some documentary about the Serengeti. Because there's like a picture of a lion. It wasn't the Lion King at all, but it's just like, I really thought it was, because like they're just some lions. It's like, why are we making this movie with just some lions? It does look like some sort of, Planet Earth documentary or something.
Yeah, who knows? It's strange, to say the least.
Totally.
I guess, Jon Favreau I guess you could say he had an easy task insofar as like, okay, I want everybody to kind of act. Here's the movie. Here's your template. I'm gonna go sit in my chair. Which isn't really. I don't mean to knock Favreau. I think he's actually a talented director and actor, but this is one of the movies where I'm like, why? Just like you said, it's like, but John, come on, man. You did a good job with the Jungle Book. You took that movie that doesn't really have much of a plot, it's just a bunch of disconnected music, musical numbers, loosely strung together. And you actually made a tolerable movie out of it. So good job. But that's one of the things that I don't understand about some of these remakes. I'm like, if you actually go back as an adult and watch some of these things, this is completely nonsensical.
Well, that era of Disney where the Jungle Book comes from is kind of like, I mean, there are some really beloved movies that come out of that era, like the Jungle Book and Robin Hood, The Sword in the Stone, right? These are all movies that, like, but you're right. If you go back and watch them, they're very strange and they have almost no plot. I mean, The Sword in the Stone is amazing because it's this amazing story about King Arthur becoming king, but the movie is all about them turning into animals. Like literally, it's all about them turning into different kinds of animals over and over and over again. It's kind of like, what was that about? You know, and same thing with the Jungle Book. I mean, the Jungle Book is an interesting story about a kid being raised by wolves in the jungle, but it's just like he has to get from point A to point B and they sing some songs along the way. I mean, it's very loose. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna make live action movies from those movies, you really have to find a way to bring them,
do something different with it, and like you said, to add to it in some way. And yeah, it is one of those things I just don't. I just don't completely understand exactly what they're doing, and why. Other than, I guess, like you said, people show up. People are like, oh yeah, I remember loving this as a kid. They haven't seen it in 15 years.
Exactly.
And then if they go back and watch the anime, they're like, not so much. And I really, now since you brought up Sword in the Stone, I'm really hoping they don't do a live action remake of that, because I am convinced at this point that Hollywood just cannot do King Arthur.
Yeah, what is that? What is wrong? Like, why do we not have a good King Arthur movie? It is true.
The best one is Excalibur, and that doesn't really hold up.
No.
I want it to hold up, but it really doesn't. It's certainly the most faithful to the story, and thus is still the best one. But First Night that came out back in the 90s, that sucked. Hated it. Yep. Hated it. And what a waste. I remember sitting talking with my friends. You know who would make an awesome King Arthur? Sean Connery. Oh, look, they cast Sean Connery as King Arthur. This is going to be great. Wait, they cast Richard Gere or Lancelot? What is happening?
That was bad. They're definitely bad.
They're destroying it. That's what they're doing. That's what's happening right now. And then, of course, they got this more recent one, Charlie Sons of Anarchy. What's his name? And you made the rock and roll version of King Arthur. Yep, not even showing up for that one. And then there was the Clive Owen one a while back with Keira Knightley playing Guinevere, the Celtic warrior queen, which in and of itself was an okay movie. Like, if you don't think of it as a King Arthur movie, it's not bad. Right. I had my various issues with it, like Guinevere is the Celtic warrior queen, and for some reason they felt the need to work in the heretic Pelagius as a mentor for Arthur. Okay. Random.
What?
Yeah, no, I don't think they're doing that.
What's that, Crystal?
Which would be worse though? Them trying to make a live action remake of that, or them trying to do a live action remake of Bambi? Because Bambi would be awesome.
Crap. Now it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Okay. Thanks, Crystal.
Speaking of movies,
you made it happen.
I would not see that again. Huh?
Oh dear. I don't want to see it happen, Crystal. I don't want to see it. So, all right, let's get now to the more controversial of the recent Disney live action shenanigans. Let's save the best for last. So let's do Mulan.
All right. I'm really excited to talk about Mulan, but we're going to talk about Mulan. Okay. So we've all seen the trailer. Okay. Mm-hmm. Crystal, you go first. Thoughts on the trailer for Mulan?
If I want to give any deeper thoughts, which I'm sure you and Faith will give deeper thoughts on it, I'd have to rewatch it again. But from what I remember watching the trailer once, okay, to preface this, I am hardcore against remakes, reboots, adaptations. Okay, for the most part, if there's one, I'm gonna hate it unless it ends up being good. I'm gonna hang my head and admit defeat. But for the most part, I hate them, especially with the latest current Disney remake after remake after remake. But the Mulan trailer, I can't fully hate on because it actually looks like it might be a decent movie. Because for me at least, my boyfriend Lucas, he's been watching a increase in Chinese movies or movies set in China. So we've watched Confucius and stuff like that. We still have yet to see the movie they made for Mulan though, which will be interesting because apparently there's a movie China made or it's a foreign movie about the story of Mulan that's actually supposed to be accurate to the historical story of it. Anyway, point is, haven't seen that, but watching the Mulan trailer, it gives me the same feeling as Confucius and whatnot. It feels like Faith said before the show, it felt kind of like a kung fu movie. It has that feeling. It has a aura that I think if it keeps that aura it has in the trailer in the movie, then it's gonna be good because it has that it has the aura and the atmosphere that it needs to be a good or someone say it's good. It's good, people. Good. I think it's good.
And it looks like a fundamentally different movie in a lot of ways than the actual animated movie that we all know and have various opinions on. I won't say we all know and love because not everyone in this chat knows and loves that movie.
Yeah.
And they give you a little bit in the very beginning of the trailer that directly connects you to the animated movie, but for about 5 seconds, and then radical disconnect. Faith, your thoughts?
Yeah. So we hopefully at this point we all know that I actually don't really like the original Mulan, although it's what I know, right? Well, and it's funny because I like it better than some of the other Disney movies that I hate. But because so many people disagree with me about this movie, I feel that I have to be even more sort of I hate this movie. But I don't actually hate this movie. I hate Brave. I just dislike this movie. But so my issue with the original movie has to do with the sort of meta situation of saying that a woman can only be successful if she joins the ranks of men and does masculine things. It's not so much with the actual internal plot of the story, in which I think that she is very brave. So one thing that I think is interesting from the trailer is that as opposed to the original movie, in this, Mulan seems to actually dream to become a warrior. She seems to really want to be a warrior, and we see her in the trailer sort of practicing as a woman. We, not dressed up as a man. We see her in what looks like her home, practicing with a sword and doing all of these kinds of kung fu type moves. And that is interesting to me because one of the critiques I have about the original Mulan is that Mulan doesn't have a goal for herself. She does something brave in the movie, which is that she takes her father's place and goes out and fights in the army. But that isn't actually what she wants from life. We don't actually know what she wants from life, other than that she wishes she could adhere to this sort of strict rules of being a wife, but she can't. So we don't actually know what she wants. And in this, it seems like maybe we do know what she wants, which is that she wants to be a warrior. My problem is that how many women can identify with that? I mean, being a warrior is not something that, it's something that some women probably want to do. And it's certainly, this type of fighting is certainly something that a woman could master probably more than just punching someone in the face. So I'm sort of like iffy on that. Like, it could be good. It could be good that like this is her dream, because I think that's what's missing from the original is what is her dream? What does she want? And so I think that's something that's interesting. I thought it was sort of, they make these comparisons in the trailer between the qualities that you need to be a wife and the qualities that you need to be a warrior. And they're trying to sort of equate those two things and say that like a good wife possesses the same qualities as a good warrior. And I just sort of cry foul on that. And I think that that's kind of the woke thing coming back in. It's trying to sort of make it like, you know, because in the end, I mean, unless they change the end, in the end, she does end up on the path to being a wife rather than the path to being a warrior, right? So even though they accept her having done this now. And so I think they're sort of trying to make it so that when she does kind of lay down the sword and go off at the end, it's sort of like, yeah, but these qualities are the same. You know, it's the same to be, you know, being a warrior is the same as being a wife. And it's kind of like, no, it's not. And being a wife is in fact a valuable and worthwhile pursuit. And they just can't say that. You know, they just can't say like it would be her life would have worth and value if she didn't continue to be a warrior. If she stayed home and was a wife and a mother, her life would have equal value. And I think that's the part where like it just frustrates me. Like, can't you just say that that is equal to the warrior thing? And so, I mean, yeah, I mean, it does look like a totally different movie. It looks like, you know, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon or whatever. It looks like one of those kinds of movies with the like slow motion, like flipping around with your sword and everything. So I don't really know what to expect from the movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm not sure exactly where they're going to wind up going with it. I think it is going to be largely a different movie than the animated movie that we've seen before. I think you're both right that we're looking mostly at a kung fu type movie in terms of the action and perhaps the overall plot. And within that genre, I think having the woman warrior thing and everything will work out just perfectly fine, because kung fu movies kind of have their own rules when it comes to just for one, when it comes to physics. There's I like a lot of kung fu movies except when they get super ridiculous. I can't remember which one it was, but there's this one where there's this really ridiculous, very long fight scene where they're like bouncing off the water on a lake, literally flinging water drops at each other with their swords.
Totally, that could happen.
I was just like,
oh my gosh.
Okay, you know, maybe in Chinese culture this has a lot of deep meaning and everything and symbolism. I'll grant that, but it is totally lost on me. Completely, 100% of it. Like, well, I know you all got your own rules, but man, okay. Hopefully no water drop battles or snowflake battles. Considering the battle in the mountain pass, hopefully none of that happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what to expect from this movie.
Yeah, you know, you do see, like you said, you see her training on her own ahead of time. You see her in battle, obviously as a woman.
Yes, obviously. That was really confusing.
Not, you know, there's no surprise here. No, she gets injured, and then, you know, but we find out. You know. Which
it seems like it negates the whole point of the movie. I mean, the whole point of the movie is that she went in disguise, and that's the tension, is that like nobody knows that she's really a woman. Exactly. So it's like have her in battle as a woman. It's like, well, who cares then? Like if she could have gone as a woman, like who cares?
Yeah, and she goes in already, presumably already being able to fight well. So
exactly,
where's the growth? Where's the growth? Where's her character arc going to be as she grows and trains through the army at the hands of what's his name?
Right. They've also the other thing about this movie is that there's no songs, there's no Mushu, there's no what's his name, Li Shang. So totally different movie.
What? There's no. That's what's his name, Li Shang. Right?
Yeah, the actual guy. There's no that guy.
Yeah.
Right. There is a love interest apparently who is, sorry about the siren. There's a love interest who is like another recruit, like, you know, like another member of the army people that like the army troop that she joins. That's all I know.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness! This is a completely different movie that just has the name Mulan slapped on it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we're like, this is going the completely opposite. Well, this is look at it this way. This is the reimagining thing that we're doing here. It's not a live action remake. It's a live action reimagining. They're going more the Snow White and the Huntsman route with this, as opposed to a remake like Beauty and the Beast, or just a beat for beat. We're just gonna do it with a different skin, Lion King.
Yeah, well, this one has a lot of problematic stuff in it, I think, that they had to get rid of. And that's why there's no songs, because I just don't think that like the woke world would appreciate a song that says, did they send me daughters when I asked for sons? I mean, that's just it's not going to play. Or the whole concept of a girl worth fighting for it's not okay anymore. And even this idea, I'll make a man out of you is not okay anymore. So they just had to scrap all these songs because those are the songs that come in this movie.
Crap. Yeah, now that you mention it, this movie that is, from what I could tell, especially from like previous conversations, is hailed largely by a bunch of the feminist types. Actually is loaded with all kinds of not feminist friendly songs and everything. It's like,
no, it's true.
I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, you're right. Crystal, you were going to say something a minute ago? Uh-oh. Did we lose Crystal? Oh, I think she shorted out. Crystal, if you can hear us when you come back, pipe up. Okay. So the kind of the most recent one is, of course, the casting of what's her name again?
Halle Bailey, not Halle Berry, but Halle Bailey.
Halle Bailey, thank you. Who is a young African American actress as Ariel, which has generated some sort of controversy. You wrote a piece for the Federalist on this, so you're more up to date on what the actual controversy is. Oh, Crystal's back.
No, she's not.
Crystal, you're breaking up all over the place. Yeah, Crystal, you're roboting big time. Oh, hey, you're here twice.
Wow, that was exciting.
I exited out of the whatever.
Welcome back. This is better.
We can hear you now, so that's good.
Yeah, that is good.
Okay, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, relating to Mulan before the topic changed. With the scene you guys are.
Dang it.
With the scene you guys are referring to, where she looks like a woman fighting, I'd be curious to see one, where that scene takes place, and two. There we go. Where that scene takes place and what the setup of the scene is, because was she dressed like a woman too, or did she just have the long hair like a woman?
It looks like she's dressed like a woman.
Oh. I'd be really curious to see then. Okay, anyway, sorry to interrupt, technical difficulty.
So Faith, you wrote a piece on this. So sum it up for us. What is the actual controversy? Is there real controversy, or is this manufactured controversy? Because I've kind of heard both.
Okay, yeah. So this is a good question. So casting decisions for the live action Little Mermaid are coming out. They've been sort of trickling in over the past couple of weeks. We've heard that I think Awkwafina is going to be Scuttle, and somebody else is going to be somebody else. I mean, we've got Scuttle, we've got I think we've got Ursula, we've got Flounder. But so then they announced that this fairly unknown actress, Halle Bailey, who I guess she's a singer and an actress. She has a sort of singing duo with, I think, her sister or some other person named Chloe. And basically, it's kind of like all of a sudden it's like hashtag Black Ariel. And people are sort of like, there was a lot of, so you're asking like, is it really a controversy? So one thing that happened is that a lot of major left-wing or progressive publications, for example, HuffPost and BET, there was one more, I can't remember, but I can't remember which one it was, but there were a few different sort of progressive places that were immediately like, yes, Black Ariel, hashtag Black Ariel. We're so excited that Ariel is going to be Black. And then there were, then the sort of other side of this that isn't just like we hate Black people. I mean, there is a category of like people saying like we just don't like Black people, but like let's just push them to the side because that's not really, they're sort of like very small group of people. But then the sort of counter critique was sort of like, oh, that people sort of took one look at her and saw that she was Black, and they sort of said like, oh, Disney virtue signaling again, right? Doing this thing that we've been talking about of sort of like, you know, trying to sort of correct some of these kind of woke things. So people on the other side were kind of like, oh, you know, here we go again. You know, what would it be like if we tried to cast a white Tiana, for example, who's the African-American princess, right? Like, what would that be like? Right. They would hate that, right? So like, it's not fair. It's hypocritical to do this. And so like, that's kind of the counter argument, which came mostly from fans. It wasn't so much actual publications, whereas the kind of progressive yay, hooray, it's a Black person did come from actual kind of news sites, whereas the sort of quote unquote backlash came more from fans like on social media, like Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. So, but my perspective about this is that I actually think that both sides are wrong about this. I think that because when Disney came out and said, here is the person that we've chosen, they didn't mention her race at all. Now, I totally feel that it is possible that they are virtue signaling with their casting, that they're choosing on purpose someone who is a minority in order to kind of say, isn't it wonderful? We're offering roles to people of color. Okay, that's totally fine. But, yeah, but what they said in their announcement was, we've had this whole search. She's an excellent singer. She's a great actress. She's very young. She's 19. She has the kind of like sort of wide-eyed natural thing that Ariel has. And she is the one of all the people that is going to do the job. So the fact that everyone on the left and on the right took one look at her and thought they've cast a Black actress is the wrong way to go about this. I think that we should be saying they have cast an actress as Ariel, and we should judge her based on whether or not she plays the part well. Ariel is a mermaid. She isn't white. She isn't Black. She isn't anything. She could be polka dot and sparkly for all we know, because mermaids aren't real. So it doesn't actually matter. Like, Mulan has to be a Chinese person because it happens in China, and that's kind of the whole, the Chinese army is fighting the Huns, right? So she has to be Chinese unless you change the story. Tiana kind of does have to be Black because her story is about being poor in New Orleans, and that's who was poor at that time in 1912. Right? And her struggles are because of her race, and I actually think it's very brave that they took a Black, that they made the first Black princess actually, that her race had to do with her story, as opposed to just like, oh, we've made Cinderella Black. Like, they picked a story that went with being a Black person.
They actually came up with, in fact, created an actual, that's one of the things that's actually the best thing about The Princess and the Frog. It's actually a truly original story. I don't know that they
I mean,
a lot of
prince, but you know, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Well, anyway,
go ahead. Sorry.
I just think that to say like this backlash about like, oh, you know, they're casting a Black person because they're trying to be so woke. It's like, no, you are looking at that person and saying, oh, a Black actress. And the same thing on the other side, people saying like, hooray, yay, Black Ariel, we love that. They're saying like, oh, a Black actress. We shouldn't be saying that. We should be saying an actress has been cast, and we should go to the movie or we should watch the preview and we should make a decision about what we think based on whether she can sing, whether she can act, what she does for the role, whether she deepens this role any further than it already has been deepened, et cetera, et cetera. And I just think that the left is the purveyor. Like the progressives are the purveyor of identity politics, and we shouldn't be. And I think that's the problem here.
I think, first of all, Faith, I think you present the best possible argument for why no one should be up in arms about this either way. I honestly think, all things being equal, that is 100% the right way to look at these sorts of things. All other things being equal. I'll be honest, my first reaction was I wasn't happy about it. And it was largely because I was like, oh, here we go again. Because I'm past kind of giving Disney the benefit of the doubt as to their motivations.
Totally.
You know, I'm definitely
about this. Right. I agree. They're totally motivated for feminist whatever.
Right. And, you know, that said, I remember there was a few years ago now, there was controversy over casting Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm in the last Fantastic Four movie that no one saw it. And what's that?
I saw it, but yes.
Oh, okay. And, you know, there was that controversy over it, and YouTuber Andre something or another, the black nerd, if you find him on YouTube, he brought up kind of the same direction that you were going, Faith, with is his race essential to the character or not? I mean, yeah, it's a good point. It's actually a good point. In his case, casting it in the modern era, no, it's not. Ariel is so I was kind of trying to think. It's like, is it essential to Ariel or not? I would say her look is extremely distinctive. You know, for people essentially my age and younger, she's arguably the most recognizable of the Disney princesses, specifically because of that freaking red hair.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, so is that important? Well, certainly the red hair signifies certain aspects of her personality. You know, they're definitely playing on some ginger tropes there, and not inaccurately.
Right.
So is it essential? Not necessarily, but it is jarring, I would say. It's I think that's fair to say, regardless of perspective. You know, so I'm not a huge fan of the casting. I'm also not like, you know, burn it all down because of the casting. You know, I'm kind of like, I'm not really happy about it. And a lot of it is because of the double standard that is applied. Like, and not to mention, there's an obsession with recasting gingers in particular. It's like, why? Come on, man.
Yeah.
But she's the one ginger princess, unless you count Merida. But not actually speaking Disney anyway.
Let's not count Merida.
Yeah, I know that I think is the one movie that you hate more than Mulan.
That is the movie I hate much more than Mulan.
Yes, that might get the hate. But you know, and I want to be fair to make sure I say it. Halle Bailey.
Yes.
I have to be so careful with that name. And you know, I don't know anything about her whatsoever. The only thing I do know is that apparently she's an actress. Like you said, apparently she can sing. In fact, on Twitter, at Chad Kuhn says there's a 60-second video of her singing "Unforgettable," and he's like, "That'll explain exactly why she was cast."
Yeah, I've seen that.
She's phenomenal.
That video. And yeah, I mean, she does seem to be able to sing, and yeah, I mean, back to your point about, like, you know, she's iconic and all of these things, and I think that is very true. But nobody was going to be that cartoon. I mean, nobody has that.
And that's fair.
I mean, this is a live, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true that like, although I think that Emma Watson was miscast as Belle because of how she played the part, I mean, she could have been the cartoon. Like, I mean, she looks like Belle. And so I think, you know, we have that to kind of play off of, but there's no reason why we can't change some of the looks of these different characters. And you know, it's a different movie. And I really think it's true that her red hair did signify a lot of things. And when the movie came out, the most common thing that critics said is she's a feisty redhead. It was feisty redhead, rebellious redhead. I mean, the whole thing was that she's a redhead and that implies certain things about her. But I think, you know, you can imply those things in lots of other ways. And I think the cartoon is the cartoon. And this is going to be something else. And I think we just have to wait and see, is this something else any good? Or is it not? I mean, I will be the first person to say, like, this is garbage if she can't act or sing, you know, or if she makes the character into something totally different, or if they try to put some feminist. I mean, what I'm really worried about is that they're going to turn it into, like, you know, oh, the other one was just about a girl who gives up her voice for a man, which just isn't true. I'm just worried they're going to put some weird feminist spin on it that negates the story. I mean, I care much more about that than what she looks like. I mean, who cares? This is the whole thing. Who cares what the Disney princess looks like? It's about what she is like on the inside. And we should all be on board with that concept, you know?
Yes. And honestly, right there, I think is, again, the best way to look at these sorts of things. It really is, because it's what the individual character looks like and everything. Again, unless it's essential to the story, again, it shouldn't matter that much. Like you said, with Tiana, it matters. With Mulan, it matters. We can argue whether I think, given this, well, I don't know, it's kind of a fantasy setting for Tangled, so you could argue whether or not that matters or not. When they get around to doing the live action remake of Frozen, heaven help us, you know, oh goodness, I don't know. I really restraining myself from a rant. That one, given the setting, I think it does matter.
I think.
Uh-oh, Crystal, we lost you again.
Again? Seriously?
Seriously, like for real.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Kinda.
Am I Oh, fun. I was just gonna say, I think you both brought up something that I've been kind of, I wouldn't say feeling, kind of we're gonna go down, but we're gonna go down the road of something really TV show,
Crystal,
and it's legitimately not virtue signaling. I'm just gonna tap out then, because I'm not. I can't hear.
Yeah, you're breaking up hardcore. I think you need to sacrifice an jobs to make this thing work.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me try that.
Well, I just heard that whole sentence without any breakups, so that's good.
Ready?
What was that again?
How about now? Yeah.
Oh, I heard that whole thing.
How about now?
Still heard that.
This is great.
Okay,
Content.
let me try.
This is hardcore right here. Oh, you come here only for the best. Well, this is a smooth professional operation. You know what? Anytime you try to,
I blame the tropical storms. Ever since you.
I'm sorry. Anytime you try to say something substantial, the thing breaks out. It does.
It doesn't want to. It doesn't want you.
I think you literally need to sacrifice a couple of iPhones so that goes to Steve Jobs to make this thing happen. So, you know, talk to Lucas, hand him a couple of old iPhones with a hammer, and see what happens. But in any case, I think it's hard. It's hard to stay objective I'll be honest, because of the fact that yes, there is so much virtue signaling going on just in general. There is a definite double standard when it comes to these sorts of casting decisions, and by golly, come on, man, let us have our ginger Disney princess. Come on.
Well, I mean,
too much.
I think the proof is going to be in whether or not the actual movie makes any kind of deal about her being black. Like, I think if the movie makes no deal at all about her being black, then I think, and if she can act and sing, then I think I'm going to be, for one, I will be totally fine with it. I mean, I also think like if she's going to be black, I guess I think that like Triton should also be black. I mean, I think it would be sort of weird.
That would be logical.
Like, right. Like, I think this whole sort of idea that like we are completely colorblind is just not true. So I think, I think her family members should be her same, of her same race because they're related to one another, unless she's adopted for some reason. But, so I think those kinds of decisions make sense because they're distracting to us, if we're sort of like, why is the dad white and, the biological dad is white and the kid is black, like those kind of things. Yeah. But I think otherwise, like, I mean, we already have, because like the setting of the Little Mermaid cartoon seems to be somewhere in Denmark, right? As like a sort of homage to like Hans Christian Andersen, right? But Sebastian the Crab is obviously from the Caribbean, so I don't know if he just like
right
there somehow or what. But I mean, it's already sort of dealing with some odd situations in terms of where people are from and what they look like. So I think if you sort of set the whole thing in the Caribbean, maybe that would be fine. I don't know. I don't think that we should be thinking in terms of what she looks like. I think if she was a man, we'd have a problem. I mean, anything that just messes with the plot, right, is not good. But I just don't think that this is about, I don't think this is a story about a white mermaid. I think it's a story about a mermaid. And so I think as long as she's a mermaid, it doesn't really matter to me what she looks like.
No, and I think objectively speaking, I think you're right. I do.
I totally take your point though about like we are angry with Disney for all the decisions that they've made, and so when they come out with this,
I don't want to even single out Disney on this one.
That's true.
It's kind of Hollywood and especially the broader entertainment culture in general that has been doing this for the last few years and kind of cramming it down everyone's throats, and it's bringing. It is generating this backlash against it, where people just be like, "Oh, come on, man!"
Yeah, well, right. I mean, it is.
But I do agree with you. Stripping all of that stuff away, objectively, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, no, I take your point because I think when Disney is making these decisions, or anyone is making these decisions that has to do with not with the story, but with how can they be the most kind of politically correct and woke, then we immediately sort of ascribe that motive to them. But I think that we who don't sort of subscribe to identity politics should sort of be better. I think we should.
And you're right.
Preach, even if we think that they're doing this for the wrong reasons.
True. Sometimes. Yeah, they might be doing something from bad motivations, but it's still not necessarily inherently bad in and of itself. And I think that is the situation we find ourselves in here, where it's like, okay, yeah, and so what? It's kind of like my initial reaction was, oh, brother, here we go. But how do I feel that strongly about it? No, not really. Will I probably go see it? No, but that's because I haven't actually gone out to see any of the live action remakes.
Right.
Because I'm not that, I'll be honest, just to go see them as movies, I'm not that interested because I have the animated ones already. And I'll watch them when they show up on Netflix and that sort of thing. Fine. But that's about it. or actually soon to be Disney Plus, I guess.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they're not really offering us anything. I think personally, I thought the best one was Beauty and the Beast. I didn't think it was particularly, I wouldn't say it was like, it was good, but I think that they tried to do this thing that I'm talking about of trying to kind of change it in some way or deepen it in some way. And I thought that they made some really interesting and sort of bold decisions, particularly with the character of the Beast, that I didn't necessarily agree with or like, but I thought, like, good for you for trying, you know?
Yeah. At least they did try to do something. And on the topic of what the race of King Triton is going to be, apparently Javier Bardem, if I'm pronouncing it right, Javier Bardem,
Right.
is
That would be weird.
rumored to be Triton.
Okay,
like,
that would be weird.
He's a darker skinned Spaniard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no.
it's like, guys, just call Idris Elba. You want to anyway.
Great. I would go for that.
Yeah. I mean, come on, man. It's Idris Elba. He's like, he's definitely the new hotness.
Oh yeah.
I mean, simmer down there.
Whatever. Move on. I've switched to my other cup.
But I mean, so Javier Bardem. I don't know how to say his name. Anyway, he's a good actor, but yeah, it's gonna raise questions. I guess it depends on what race mom was. $10 says we get a flashback.
Yeah, I definitely there's going to be a mom situation. Some people think that Ursula is Ariel's mom.
Oh man, really?
Yeah. So,
whoa.
Yeah, I mean, there is some
McCarthy, so that's not going to fix anything.
No, I don't know what is happening there. I mean, there is some evidence that she might actually be Ariel's aunt, like she might be Triton's sister, because she says when I lived in the palace, so she has some connection to the royal family that would cause her to live in the palace, and she's been banished to some sort of weird shell-shaped thing. So I think, I don't know what, but I definitely think you're right that in this live-action movie, we're going to get some more information about Ariel's mom.
Absolutely. So maybe I don't know, maybe it'll be, I don't know, Angela Bassett or something.
Right. Yeah, it should be good.
Which, actually, that would be awesome.
There you go. We have now cast the movie.
Yep. We've done proper casting on the movie. And just building it all around Halle Bailey there, and why not? We've gone that far. Let's just go all the way. And who do we cast?
I just really hope she's good.
Is she going to have as many sisters?
She needs that's a lot of sisters. I mean, there are 6 sisters plus Ariel because of the 7 Seas, right? So there needs to be a lot of sisters.
There does. I wonder if they're gonna stick with that or not. Then again, it's not like they're important. They show up like twice in the movie. So
yeah, they sing a song for like 2 seconds, and I think they let King Triton know that Ariel's in love. I think that's pretty much it.
Something like that. And I think did they show up at the end for the wedding?
Yeah, they say goodbye at the end. I think they wave from the ocean.
Right. Which is one of the very few similarities that Disney's Little Mermaid has with the actual fairy tale.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely not. I mean, all the people that are complaining, like, no, she's obviously, white because, in the Hans Christian Andersen, it's like, this story has nothing to do with the Hans Christian Andersen version.
Really.
She's a mermaid, and it's called The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, she's a mermaid. She falls in love with a dude she saw on a ship.
Right. She does give up her voice, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few beats, but the overall point of the story and everything is actually completely different.
Right. She also was blonde in that version, so let's just
accurate. Yes, that's true. She was blonde in that version, and there was an Ursula the Sea Witch, and but she didn't marry Eric.
Nope. Nope. I think she turns into sea foam, and then they take pity on her, and she becomes an angel.
She dies.
Right. She dies. Right. I get that. She dies.
But because she was willing to do that, to sacrifice her own life instead of taking Eric's,
right?
She actually gained a human soul.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about getting a soul, and the mermaids
Yeah.
don't have souls, and it's a totally different story. Totally different.
Yeah, it's a movie about it's a movie essentially about self-sacrifice and and in the obvious redeeming quality of that.
Yeah.
Is what that story is about, as opposed to falling in love necessarily.
Yep. Different story. So we can move on from that concept.
Yes, moving on entirely. Well, we're actually a ways over time,
I see that.
but that's okay because it was a good conversation, and we just had to wrap that up. So Faith, again, yes. So thanks again for coming on. We're gonna have to still have you back to do more Henry VIII.
I would love that. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I need to learn more. So why not?
Anytime.
All right. So thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Just to let you know, there probably will not be a show next week because I'm going to be doing other stuff, and we're working on still finding that replacement for Hangouts on Air when that goes away in a week and a half. It's coming up quick, and we just about got it ironed out. So there shouldn't be too much of a hiccup there. So anyway, until then, we'll keep you posted on what's coming up next. And thanks again to Faith for coming on.
Thank you.
And until next time, keep on fighting the good fight.